Hello, I am Aditya Shiva from Professional Education Services. I've been teaching here for the last 2 years. Today we will start with hydraulic turbines. This is common for mechanical and civil engineering. And the first part today we will cover the impulse turbines. So this is the lesson plan for today. We will study the layout of a hydel power plant and some of the basic concepts of heads and efficiencies. Next, we'll study how hydroelectric power plants, hydraulic turbines are classified on the basis of energy conversion, direction of flow, and the others. And then we'll move to the impulse turbine, which is the first kind of turbine. In impulse turbines, we'll be dealing with the velocity triangles. We'll study the work done equation and the power generated. Then we'll have the derivation of the efficiency, and we'll derive the condition for maximum efficiency. At what particular specific turbine parameters we'll have maximum efficiency. Then we'll go to the practicalities of the impulse turbine, more specifically the Pelton wheel. We'll be dealing with the working proportions, that is what proportions or what values are taken as a rule of thumb when engineers are designing hydraulic turbines. So a hydraulic turbine is a turbo machine that converts hydraulic energy, the energy that is there with water, which is the working fluid in this case. This energy is stored in the form of pressure at a height or potential energy into electrical power for consumption by first converting it into mechanical energy. So basically a turbine converts hydraulic energy into mechanical energy. This power generated in such a form is called hydroelectric power. So what are the heads of a turbine? Which when we deal with hydraulic energy, we are dealing with head or pressure head. So what are the heads? There are two types of heads. One is the gross head. What is gross head? It is basically the difference between the head race and tail race levels when there is no flow across the turbine. What are head race and tail race levels? We'll come to that in a bit. Now, net head or available head, operating head, effective head, these are all the terminologies, different terminologies used for the same thing. It is basically the available pressure at the turbine blade. Now, this has to take into account some of the frictional losses, piping losses, windage losses, and tail race head has to be subtracted from the gross head that is available. So after all the losses are subtracted from the available gross head, we will have net head. You must remember that all the calculations, power and energy calculations for a particular turbine design are done on the basis of net head only. Now, this is the basic layout of a hydroelectric power plant. So we have the gross head here, which is from the datum line to the head race level. At head race level, we will have the maximum reservoir capacity and where water is stored in the dam. Now from the dam, water moves through the penstock to the turbine. Here we will have something called as a surge tank or a forebay. Surge tank or a forebay acts as a temporary storage for water when the load is fluctuating. If there is extremely high load, some of the water from the reservoir that is going to the turbine is siphoned off into the surge tank or forebay and again used up when the load has gone down. We can remember this some sort of to a riser in a casting. The riser functions the same, has the same function as a surge tank. Now from the penstock, it moves to the nozzle where high velocity jets of water are impinged upon the runner blades. So this is the runner blade. Here we can have buckets or we can have blades. Both of them function the same manner by converting the hydraulic energy into mechanical power. This water now, which has been the energy that has been used to generate mechanical power and thereby electrical power, this water now moves to the tail race, which is at a lower level than the datum. Now, what are the efficiencies of a hydraulic turbine? We have four sorts of efficiencies of a hydraulic turbine. One is the hydraulic efficiency, that is the power developed by the turbine to the power supplied at the inlet. This is a ratio. The formula is given here. Rho A C, C is the velocity into this particular equation. This is called the Euler energy equation, which is used to calculate the work done for all turbo machines, hydro and thermal. The power supplied at the inlet is basically the potential energy. So therefore we use the relation rho G Q H to calculate the power supplied at the inlet as a measure of head and discharge. Next we have the mechanical efficiency. Mechanical efficiency deals with how much power is available at the shaft of the turbine. Therefore, it is the ratio of the power available at the shaft of the turbine to the power developed by the turbine. The power available at the shaft is measured by the dynamo. It has to take into account braking and other mechanical losses during transmission. Therefore, all the power that is developed by the turbine is not available at the shaft. So we'll have some sort of mechanical losses coming into it. This is called mechanical efficiency. Next we have volumetric efficiency. This is the ratio of the volume of water striking the turbine. That is the amount of water that is coming into the form as jet to the volume of water supplied at head race. Let us go to a couple of slides behind. Now, here we have head race level, wherein let us say we have 100 cubic meters of water. By the time water comes to the nozzle and flows, you have the surge tank where some of the water is taken away and there is friction, fluid friction in the pipeline and minor head losses due to sudden expansion, sudden contraction and all. So all of these reduce the amount of water that is striking the blade. So this efficiency is called volumetric efficiency. Next, last we have overall efficiency. Most industrial turbines are specified on the basis of overall efficiency. Now when we look at overall efficiency, we have to go only between the extreme inlet and the extreme outlet. That is, when we are supplying water at the turbine inlet, that is from the nozzle to the power available at the turbine shaft. So this ratio, that is the power available at the turbine shaft to the power supplied at the turbine inlet from the nozzle, this ratio is the overall efficiency. It is key to note that overall efficiency is the product of mechanical and hydraulic efficiency. Sometimes we also have some volumetric efficiency also is multiplied. So mechanical efficiency, hydraulic efficiency and volumetric efficiency all together make up the overall efficiency of the turbine. So this completes the concept of basic idea of heads and efficiencies of a turbine. Now we have to classify how much a hydraulic turbine. How do we know what sort of a turbine are we working with? So first, on the basis of energy conversion. Now, if all the pressure energy of the turbine, that is all the pressure head available at the reservoir at the head race is used up in the form of kinetic energy alone, then we call it as an impulse turbine. So for some of them are Pelton wheel, the Grand turbine and the Banki turbine. Then we have the reaction turbine. A reaction turbine is one where not all pressure energy is used up as kinetic energy. Some of the pressure energy is left at the exit. So this pressure energy, this remaining pressure energy is called as reaction pressure. because of which water doesn't flow to the to the tail race. In order to provide further flow, we use something called as draft tube. We will learn more about draft tube when we come to reaction turbines. Now, on the basis of the direction of flow. Now, here we have tangential flow turbine. That is, if we have a blade, so this is the blade, and if water is flowing as a tangent to this blade, we have it as a tangential flow turbine. Next, we have something called as radial flow turbine. What is radial flow turbine? Now let us say we have the turbine blade in this format, and if the water is flowing in a direction radial to it in this format, then we call it as radial flow turbine. One of the best examples is a Francis turbine, which is a radial flow turbine. Next, we have something called the axial flow turbine. So let us say this is the turbine shaft, and this is the blade set. So if the water is flowing in this axis itself, along the axis of rotation, along the axis, that is along the turbine shaft line, then we call it as an axial flow turbine, wherein the inlet and exit streamlines are along the same line. This is what we call axial flow turbine, and the best example is the Kaplan or the propeller turbine. Lastly, we have mixed flow turbine, wherein the flow is radial at the inlet and axial at the outlet, or sometimes they call it as meridional flow. I'll type it down here. Meridional flow, where the flow is inlet, flow is radial at the inlet and axial at the outlet. This is sometimes called meridional flow, and by joining two streamlines along the flow path, we can get the flow directions. So this is the second type of classification of the turbine. The third type is on the basis of energy conversion, that is how much available head is there, how much head is available for the turbine. Now high head turbines are there, wherein the available head is roughly between 250 meters and more. If the available head is more than 250 meters and more, then we have high head turbine. Pelton wheel is a high head turbine. Next, we have medium head turbine, where the head ranges from somewhere between 60 meters to 250 meters. So this is a medium head turbine. And lastly, we have low head turbine. That is the axial flow Kaplan turbine, where up to 60 meters head is taken as a low head turbine. Now, lastly, we have specific speed. Specific speed of a turbine is a characteristic speed that relates the rotational speed, the power generated by the turbine, and the head operated by the turbine. So for a turbine, we have different specific speed formulae, which will come in the last part, or when we deal with Kaplan performance characteristics of the turbine. Then we have high specific speed turbine, which is the Kaplan turbine. The Kaplan turbine has a specific speed of 350 or more, 350 plus. Then we have the medium specific speed, roughly between 50 to 350. And lastly, we have the low specific speed turbine, that is less than 50. When your specific speed of the turbine is less than 50, we have a Pelton wheel or an impulse turbine. If we have higher specific speeds, we have a reaction turbine. If we have a very high head, we have an impulse turbine. If we have lower heads, then we have a reaction turbine. Next. The Pelton wheel. So basically, what is an impulse turbine? An impulse turbine is one wherein the available pressure head is converted into velocity in full form, which means we are only using the kinetic energy of the working fluid. Now, the Pelton wheel is named after the American miner Lester Allen Pelton, whose first design was patented in 1880. As you can see, the Pelton wheel consists of a series of buckets mounted on a shaft. These buckets have a cross section in this format where water strikes the turbine and then it splits. This middle section AB is the cut section. AB represents the splitter. The jet impinges along the splitter and then travels outwards, and a number of jets are placed along the periphery of the turbine wheel. Now, if at all we have to stop the turbine, we use something called as braking jet. This braking jet is applied in a direction that is opposite to the direction of rotation of the Pelton wheel. Some of the key installations are in Switzerland, Turkey, and in India, where you can see the height, that is high head, that is 1,800 meters above. You have the Swiss turbine, and so on and so forth. Now we come to the velocity triangles. Now this is the critical part. Now the first thing, like I said, in Pelton wheel, water strikes the buckets tangentially. Therefore, the inlet velocity triangle is reduced to a straight line. Now, the nomenclature that we will be following is this. So U represents the bucket velocity. Okay, blade or bucket velocity. C1, C1U and C1X, all components of C are related to the water only. And lastly, we have W, which represents the relative velocity component. So we have U, C and W. Now, in a Pelton turbine, the speed of the jet remains constant from at the inlet as well as at the exit. Therefore, we have U1 and U2 to be the same U. U is given by this relation pi dn by 60. Okay. So as you can see clearly, we have the inlet and exit flow turbines. Now, the last part is alpha and beta. Alpha always represents the flow angle, that is the angle with which the fluid is flowing. Beta always represents the angle with which the blade is inclined, that is the blade angle. Next. So you can see the nomenclature here, subscripts 1 and 2 and all the other components. Next, we move on to the formula for work done. Initially, I told that we will be using the Euler energy equation for work done. So we use this formula. Now, we have separated the inlet velocity line and the outlet velocity triangle from the initial diagram. So now we can see the initial blade speed is equal to the initial whirl velocity. C1u represents the inlet whirl velocity of the fluid. Whirl component is always responsible for power generation in turbines, compressors, pumps, and fans. In all rotodynamic machines, whirl component is the major component responsible for power generation. Now, because the blade is also moving and the fluid is also moving, you will have a relative velocity component. So the mathematical relations are C1 is equal to C1u, and we have C1 is equal to U1 plus W1. Okay. So now we sum it up here. Now from the outlet triangle, we can see we have to derive the Euler energy equation. In Euler energy equation, we use the whirl component. So we derive the whirl component in this case. So we take the cosine component cos beta 2 adjacent to theta, that is u2 plus c2u adjacent to beta 2 divided by the hypotenuse, that is w2, and therefore we arrive in this relation. So we arrive at this relation. This is a key relation when we are deriving. Now, for the sake of problem solving, we assume that the flow is frictionless. Therefore, the relative velocity does not change from inlet to exit. Therefore, we have W1 is equal to W2. Since and we also have U2 is equal to U1 as mentioned in the previous slide. So we substitute all those changes, and we know W1 is equal to C1 minus U1, and when we make this, we have C2U is equal to C1 minus U1 multiplied by cos beta 2 minus U1. So this equation we have for C2U. Now, work done is calculated by the Euler energy equation. Specific work is what we call here. W specific is the work done. So U into C1U plus C2U. C1U is equal to C1 in the previous slide, and C2U we have this relation. So if we take C1 minus U1 common and take it outside, we have U1 into C1 minus U1 into 1 plus cos beta 2. So clearly here we can see that the specific work is totally dependent on the inlet components only and the exit blade angle. So we don't need to calculate any other parameters except U1, C1 and beta 2. If we have them, we have the specific work done. Now, initially we assumed that there is no friction between the fluid and the bucket. However, if there is a friction, then we use a friction factor or a friction coefficient, K. K value lies between 0 and 1 and is added to the exit relative component. How? We take that W2 is K times W1. Initially, fluid has a particular relative velocity, but because of friction, it does not come out with the same relative velocity. We have to remember that the fluid strikes the bucket initially with the absolute velocity C. However, when it leaves the bucket, it comes out with relative velocity W. So therefore, we make this change. W2 is equal to K times W1. And therefore, we add W specific is equal to 1 plus K cos beta 2. This is the specific work done. Now, how do we calculate the force exerted by the jet on the buckets? This is work done by the jet. The force has to be done, calculated, or the power developed is mass flow rate into specific work done. This is the thermodynamic equation. Power developed is mass flow rate into specific work done. Mass flow rate is calculated using the equation m dot is equal to rho a v. In this case, we take v as the absolute inlet velocity C1, rho a C1. A is the nozzle diameter area of the fluid jet, cross-sectional area of the fluid jet. Then we have power developed is equal to rho AC1 into U1 and so on. Now AC1 represents the discharge. A into C1 represents the discharge, that is the amount of fluid that is flowing per second across the turbine. So instead of AC1 we can write as Q. I'll write it here. Q equals A times C1. So we make this small change and we have the equation for power developed. This is the equation for the power developed by the impulse turbine. So in the next video we will be dealing with the hydraulic efficiency of the Pelton wheel turbine. Thank you.